There we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Mac to the Future show. Tonight, we have Apple is all in for green. Wither the HomePod. 32 plus 32 does not equal 64. And the iPhone SE2 and plenty of more fun, excitement, and surprises tonight on the Mac to the Future show. Maybe, if I can figure this out. Can I? Come on. Damn. I swear, this Ecamm program more and more is making me wish I was back on OBS. Warren, how are you this evening, sir?
Hey, OBS. I'm good. How are you doing?
The only thing that this does that OBS can't do is the comments. That's
Does
it.
it do like the names and everything underneath it? And
I can make it. I can make OBS dance and sing, but I can't make it do the things that it was never built to do, like the comments from Facebook. Unless I do, well, you remember when I did that one time? I basically copied a window from the whatchamajigger where all the comments are coming in on Facebook, and then dropped that right in the middle. And yeah, it was, you see all the comments, but is that something you necessarily want? No, I don't think so. Well, anyway, this weekend there was finally some signs of spring, sort of. Saturday was gorgeous. I actually took off Friday, Monday, and Tuesday because I just needed to get away. And the wife and I, we went to Shepherdstown and Harper's Ferry in West Virginia. Then we went up to Antietam. And Saturday was gorgeous. Sunday was just crap with rain. Monday was, let me think, crap with rain. And Tuesday was cold. So not exactly the most fun trip. Though I did rent, for those who keep up with Guy's Daily Drive, I did rent a Kia Soul to give that a try. And it was impressive. That was actually my very first time using CarPlay.
Yeah, I've had it in 2 rental cars. I don't have it in my normal car, but I've had it in 2 rentals. And it's got potential. There's some things we don't like about it, but
well, I wish it had, that you could do applicable apps that's related to driving, like Waze. That would be nice to have.
Right. So, I mean, the Waze would be nice. The fact that you have to use a cable, they're trying to work with that.
That doesn't really bother me because it's getting its information in relationship to GPS and all the rest of that from your phone. So if you didn't have it plugged into power in some way, your phone would be dead in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because GPS kills your phone.
We had a Malibu rental that had the CarPlay, but it also had a wireless plate.
Oh, the key, whatever they call it.
Qi. It had the Qi charger.
Okay.
So it had it, so you couldn't really use it. Not that it was a big deal because you had to plug it in.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but the Waze would be nice, and then if you're using Waze on your phone and try to switch something on the actual CarPlay unit, it messes up your phone. Or if you try to switch on the phone, it messes up the CarPlay. So it does, it really makes you not want to use anything but the CarPlay. Like, so if you do want to use Waze, it becomes kind of a mess.
Well, I mean, you can, but if you're using Waze directly on your phone and you're mounting your phone someplace to do that, there's really not much point in having CarPlay running. So in that case, I would just turn it off.
There was something, I mean, the music, like, so with the rental, instead of pairing it to the Bluetooth, I wanted to listen to my music from my phone. So the CarPlay did that with the music, but I had Waze going and then I had the music going on CarPlay. So then when you went to switch the car, it was, we had Waze going, we had Apple Maps
Music.
Apple Music, Apple Maps trying to open whenever you like change something, and then the car itself had navigation. It was just like a mess. And my wife like touched something as I'm driving, and then all of a sudden Waze goes away, and we don't know what's going on. So it's
at what point does the car just go, you know what? Screw it. I'm like just done. Just I'm not telling you where to go anymore.
We did a few experiments. We did Waze, Apple Maps, and the Chevy's car navigation.
Yeah.
Put a destination and see which one would be the fastest to get there, and that's the one we followed. And
which one was it?
I don't know. We got lost, so
so it didn't really matter.
Didn't matter.
I have some trips coming up. I'm going to North Carolina next month, but that's over a weekend, so that shouldn't affect the show. I'm taking a trip in June to Boise, Idaho for my mother-in-law's 90th birthday. That will most likely mean there won't be a show that week. And of course, we have Macstock coming up in July. Now, my plan currently, as far as Macstock goes, is to actually leave on Wednesday. So, Macstock weekend, there won't be a show Wednesday night. Now that's I think the 18th of July, but more than likely once I get set up wherever it is that I end up setting up, and assuming that the Wi-Fi and or wired, if they have it, capabilities are up to scratch, we'll probably do a live from Woodstock, Illinois. It's whatever, I don't really know how that's all going to work, but there should be quite a few people there, so I imagine that it'll be fun and frolic filled. Lots of other F words too, I'm sure.
It's 89% podcasters, so everybody's could be podcasting.
Yeah.
Is it like that? Was it like that last time? Where like
no, not really. Well, it just happened that I mean, people who are Mac people tend to be podcasters.
Yeah.
So, it's more or less an extension of what it is they're doing already as far as writing or blogging or what have you. If they have any renown at all, then, either they're doing their own podcast or people are asking them to be on podcasts, which explains why so very few people ask me to be on podcasts. But yeah, plus I'm also busy as hell. I mean, I got 3 different things going on right now as far as podcasting goes. So, I don't necessarily have a whole lot of spare time to do anything else.
Let me ask you the Mac stuff.
Sure.
It's a lot of people that's in the industry, understand tech, are into Apple, things like that.
Yeah. Adam Christensen will be there.
How many normal users go to this kind of thing?
It's funny you say normal. What is that word? I mean? What is normal? What does normal mean?
Somebody who doesn't live and breathe this stuff like we do.
There was I think usually there's like 150 to 200 people there, and most of them are there to watch the monkeys in the cage. So that's Tim and me and Adam and Matt Geek Gab, John and Dave. Just all the usual gangs that are there. That we're part of the draw. Allison Sheridan from the Silicast.
Oh, it sounds like a great place to mingle with peers.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's community. It's all about community.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much how many people are there to like learn things more so than to
present,
hang.
There's many more people there that are there for the information that's being presented as compared to presenters, or, people that just want to hang out with, the ever so famous podcasters, because, we're an elite group. I'm sorry. I can't keep a straight face and do that.
All right.
Anyway,
well, so curious on that. So.
Why don't we shoot on over to the first story I have here? Apple goes all in for green energy. This is what I should do is just start copying these, and I'm going to put this in the chat room so that you all can follow along with the fun and nonsense. This was a story I saw in CNN on the money side. Apple said earlier this week that its goal of being 100% on using green energy has been accomplished, and that they were also able to push power back to the grid during non-peak hours of operation. This includes all their corporate offices, data centers, retail stores in 43 countries. Now, none of the stories that I've seen on this has said how they're powering their retail stores on clean energy, since they don't control the power grid for those facilities.
I have info on that.
So how do they do that?
So I read a story about it. So they obviously can't control the stores, the malls, things like that.
Right.
They offset. They use an offset with other power going back into the grid to offset that percentage that they're not controlling, is what they're doing. So in other words, if they offset the power somewhere else by 10%, they'll apply that 10% to the retail stores, and that's how they're doing it.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I figured they were doing. Now, up to 23 of their suppliers for Apple goods and services have also committed to 100% green energy. Other large companies have also said that they're committed to greening their practices. Microsoft claims to be...
493-176-493-176.
Somebody's calling. My Alexa's going crazy.
Oh. Stop it. Stop that, Alexis.
Hang up.
493-1760.
I've been getting spam calls all day. She'll hang up.
Oh, joy. Yeah, smart devices. Gotta love them.
I didn't have to get up to answer that.
Yeah, I get more and more spam calls on my cell phone now.
Oh,
it's really it's pissing me off. And every single time I get one, I block the number every single time. Once I verify that it's a sales call or a sales pitch, I must have gotten 3 calls a day about life insurance. And it's
get the same ones. Yeah, it's the same. I'm calling about your policy. Hi, this is Karen, and I'm calling about your policy.
I got 2 calls from the same person on 2 different numbers today.
But it's not a real person. It's just
no. This was a real person, because as soon as I said, you called me before, she was like, oh no, that couldn't have been me. It's like, it was totally you. You're just, you're robo calling whatever system that you're using to call these approved numbers, even though most of us have put our numbers on the do not call list. When someone picks up, it automatically connects one of you that's in this little center, or you're sitting at home and it connects you, and then you just start talking to whoever it is. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what number is being used to call.
Did you get the one, I get this a lot, but the one that makes you want to say yes? Do you get that? I've gotten that a few times, where it's a recording and
no, most of what I get are for car warranties.
So if you get something that says, do you want to be off this list? And if you say yes, it just hangs up on you. And what it is basically they're supposedly using your recording of your words yes to try to get into your bank or something like that. Oh. So it's
no, I don't unless unless I know it's a live person, I don't engage, because it doesn't matter who it is that you're talking to or what it is that you're talking to. Telling them don't call me anymore means nothing, because they have your telephone number, and whether it's a landline or it's your cell phone, it doesn't matter. They have it, and they will call it each and every time.
Yep.
So, but getting back to green energy,
23 suppliers.
Yeah, 23 suppliers for Apple's goods and services have committed to 100% green energy. Microsoft claims that they've been carbon neutral since 2012, and Google has said the same since 2007. Now, I imagine that they're in the same kind of predicament that Apple is in, whereas they lease a lot of space, and that they may or may not have complete control over those facilities. So they probably pretty much do the same thing with offsetting, putting power back onto the grid. Now, you know about Otherworld Computing.
Yep.
Have you? You've never been to Woodstock, have you? Because that's where Otherworld Computing's, or I don't know if it's still their main facility, but that was where their main facility was. Oh, it was like 8-9 years ago when Tim from mymac.com and I visited the place. They've got this huge, besides having solar panels on the roof, they have a huge turbine on the outside of the building that you can see from miles away. They have their own like paper recycling center inside, and they basically crush all their paper into like this big huge cube, and some company comes by and picks up the big paper cube once or twice a week, depending on, I'm sure it's on some kind of schedule. The parking lot is made up of these pre-manufactured, like oddly shaped bricks. So if they need to get under it, instead of ripping up the driveway and, digging all through it and then trying to put it all back and having to repave and all the rest of it, they don't have to do that. They basically just remove the bricks from the area that it needs to be removed from, do whatever kind of digging it is they need to do, pack it back down, and put the bricks back. I mean, it's an amazing
it sounds like
facility.
Another world. It does sound like another world.
It is. It's otherworldly.
So
yes.
So Google and Microsoft do not have the same type of retail space as Apple does. Obviously, they got a lot less in their own.
Well, certainly Microsoft does. It's just
Google,
in all the places just around the corner from the Apple store.
Yeah, that's always empty. But I will tell you, Google in Mountain View is huge, and it's not. I mean, for them to be green it looks old. I mean, if you drive through it, I don't know if you've ever been there, but
no.
It almost looks like parts of it look like an old college campus buildings, and it's
it
just
probably was.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's state of the art. It's certainly not like the Apple buildings. But who knows? Maybe they're running. Maybe they're using bonfires to heat them. I don't know.
Caveman. You save 15% on car insurance. Wither the HomePod. Many are saying that Apple is scaling back on the number of HomePods to be produced, and that after the initial sales rush of a new Apple product, that inventories are beginning to pile up. The usual bleats of too expensive and doesn't do enough as compared to its rivals were the typical items or terms being thrown around by most news sources, with an unusual new bit about a smaller and cheaper unit to come out later this year. Comparison to Google's and Amazon's similar devices in relation to also being home assistants, and to Sonos speakers for multi-room setups and pairing, which the current version of the HomePod does not yet support, have probably contributed to the confusion in the marketplace over which ecosystem to buy in. Now, you have one, don't you?
Yeah, I do. So the HomePod did one thing really well and everything else not
Not
so
as
well.
well.
So it basically did the speaker part well. They made a good speaker.
Hey, Cletus.
And David Ginsburg said he returned his because
It didn't do enough.
he didn't do enough for him.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, I use mine to listen to music, and I'll backtrack. I've really fallen back in love with Apple Music. I have Apple Music. I wasn't big into it, but we have a family subscription. But now that I got the HomePod, I've been really fine tuning my Apple Music collection, and it's kind of worth the price of admission for the HomePod. But Apple Music is really good, and I listen to podcasts. Other than that, it doesn't do anything else. The voice assistant is terrible. The home automation is pretty terrible. It doesn't have the pairing, so that's not out yet. It's a great speaker, but it's definitely not worth $350.
Oh, and don't forget multi-room setup isn't there yet either.
Well, that's the thing. They promised a few things, and whether they can't get it going or what, they promised too soon. Now, is it going to be the kind of thing as once they announce that it's working and they got the stereo pairing to go, will that boost the sales up a little bit for people who are waiting for that? Maybe. I don't think that many people who really, all the articles say the same thing. All the Apple geeks like us went out and bought it when it first came out, and then they stopped. So I think the report says they sold like 1 million units when it first came out, and then since it's been out, another 1 million or something like that, which is means it slowed down from that initial sale. So as they add features to it, will it, cause more people to buy it? If they come out,
this isn't dissimilar to what happened with the watch.
Yeah. The problem is the watch was, even though the watch was, there were smartwatches before the Apple Watch, but the Apple Watch was
the one that defined the market.
It was obviously a better version of any smartwatch that was out there.
Wait, before you say that, that's not necessarily true. It was better if you were already in the Apple ecosystem. Now, a lot of these devices, whether or not you find them useful, a lot of it depends on what services that you use outside of your phone or your computer. If you're all in with Apple, then sure, the Apple Watch is a no-brainer. If you want a smartwatch, you don't necessarily, I didn't get one for a very, very long time. Go ahead.
The Apple Watch wasn't the first one out. So when I started with the Pebble, so the Pebble came out, I got that one. But after the Pebble and the Samsung watches, it was sort of all over the place. The Samsung Android Wear wasn't Android Wear yet. It was not
catch as catch can.
Yeah, and Pebble was out of business. So when Apple came in, they had it packaged a lot better than any other company out there. Samsung watches weren't selling. They had the Gear line, which were terrible. People hated them. And then Android Wear was kind of fragmented at that point. So they came in with a good time with the watch. And yes, when the watch came out, the sales number wasn't good. It didn't have a lot of features. But I think as they started pushing them, and they really started pushing them at one point, like when the next year when the new Series 1 came out, or new version, they really started dropping the price of the old ones. People were just picking them up for the kids. It started to push them out. Sort of like what Amazon did with the Echo. They're just, wholesaling them out. And then once people started getting them, they started liking them, and now people are buying them. The speaker's different in the fact that its competitors are a lot better than the watch competitors were. And there's so many, they were late. With the watch, they weren't that late. If Apple released a watch now instead of 3 years ago, they'd be late, and who knows what would happen with it. But they released the speaker years after they should have to compete.
Well, I don't know if they were ready to release a speaker 2-3 years ago.
Why not?
Well, I mean, the whole, when you get an Amazon speaker or you get a Google speaker, you're not buying it for the quality of the speaker. It's more along the lines of you're buying it for the home assistant, whether it's, the A word or what's Google's
OKG.
Yeah, the whether it's the A word or the G word or the S word if you're into the Apple thing.
But that's not. But that's not true, really. A lot of people, I would say most of the people aren't using these things as home assistants. They're using it to play music and for news. Every old person that I know now has one, and they're certainly not controlling their home with it. They're listening to music and playing the news because, it does it, and it does it well. I mean, it understands what you're saying, and
Okay, but then you're back to the home assistant part.
Because I'm into I'm into home automation.
Right.
And I could tell you that it's not working as well as the other ones, but people buying all the dots and people buying the speakers, they're so cheap, and they're listening to music with it. And I'll tell you what, the sound is really, the speakers are not terrible. The dots are bad, but the regular ones are not that bad. And I have two of them. I can't show you, but I have the HomePod right next to the Amazon one. And if you were sitting here listening to either one, I don't know if you would tell the difference, to be honest with you. People are not, there's people who will, and there's audiophiles and all that. But again, there's not a big draw to get it. Compared to the other ones.
Well, now what home assistant does the Sonos use? Is that A word or is that G word? I think it's G word.
That's the A one. So it got the A word in there.
Okay.
And
so that's like the real competitor then to the HomePod, because the HomePod is more along the lines of a really, really good speaker. And again, I don't have one. And at this point, kind of like with the watch, I have no intention of getting one because it doesn't fill a need for me, and I'm not going to spend $350 on something that I can't clearly define a use for. The marketplace is still wide open.
Sort of, kind of, but the home automation is really building up. And when people come into my house and hear me going, "Hey, do this, hey, do that, hey, do that," it's something they want and want to get. And the HomePod's not to that point where it could do that. In fact, it's
Siri's not to that.
But it's not just Siri. It's all these things have to be. Apple locked it down. They made it where these devices had to have a special chip to get into the home automation, and then I think they changed it around a little bit. But I would say I have a lot of devices now. I have lights, I have sprinklers, I have the TV, I have door locks, I have everything. I would say about 20% is HomeKit compatible. And I'm not doing that on purpose. I'm just buying what's on sale and getting it and installing it. There's a lot of things that are not HomePod compatible. And that's a problem. And then, Siri never understands a word we're saying. Every time I'm trying to think what I could ask her but every time I ask her something, and the music, the thing with the music is supposed to be good too, but like Apple Music, if you ask her to play like an album or a song on Apple Music, it's half and half. She'll get it right.
Really? Okay.
Where Amazon always gets it right. So, it needs work. And people people are knowing that, and people are not spending $300 or $350 to get it.
Well, certainly not yet.
Not yet. The idea of so there's a few things. The idea of a cheaper version would be a good idea. Two, just because people want to put them around the house like they do they'll probably have, a nice home pod like the good one and a couple spread around. There's reports that the Airport Express might support it. And if it does, you could plug that in.
Yeah, but they've pretty much dropped all the airport stuff.
They dropped it, but there's the code saying that it might support AirPlay too. And if it does, then there'll be a big rush to buy them, because then you could, at that point you get a cheap Airport Express and plug it into anything you want speaker wise and get music throughout the house.
Okay.
So I mean, it's still got work. It's a great speaker. If you have $350 and want a really nice speaker, then get it. Apple Music is really, I think, the best one out there compared to the other streaming services. And to play the Apple Music, I don't listen to music on the Amazon one anymore, because Apple has a better selection.
Okay, well, we're gonna take a quick break and see if we can help Ed sell a couple books. So if you guys will just hang on a minute, we'll be right back. Are you a new Mac user or an old hand? Wish you could know the ins and outs, keyboard shortcuts, or hidden tips and tricks to make you more efficient using your favorite computer? Hey, it's your lucky day, because Edward Eisen has written a great guide to knowing more about the Mac and the OS that it runs on. It's called This is the Light Side, and it's available through Apple's iBookstore or with Amazon. Better yet, it's not a stuffy old book that gathers dust on the shelf once the next operating system is released, because it's an ebook that you can look at any time you want. It won't get outdated because it's continuously being updated. Information on setting up your new Mac, installing and getting rid of applications, security settings and what to look out for, keyboard shortcuts, some basic app recommendations, how to use Windows on your Mac, if you really want to, that is, advanced topics, searching, using iCloud, and much more. All this for a mere 99 cents. Go to the iBookstore or Amazon and check out Edward Eisen's This is the Light Side. It's the book you want on your virtual shelf. Okay, we are back. This actually wasn't in our show notes, but it was something that kind of came up over the last couple days, and decided at the last minute that we were going to put it in. So why don't you grab the lead on that, Warren?
Definitely. So actually it just happened today or yesterday. So this guy is a YouTuber, and his name is Linus Sebastian. And I've seen this guy before. There's a Linus Tech Tips. This guy's an idiot, but he does basically. I think his other stuff is just kind
compared to.
As compared to non-idiots, I guess. But this guy, they make fun of tech and they try to ridicule other companies. In any case, he had they bought a iMac Pro, and I guess a couple of weeks ago they did a tear down, because that's what people do with that stuff. So he opened it up, and as he opened it up, he damaged the motherboard and the screen of the iMac Pro.
Because he's an idiot.
Because I don't think he did it on purpose, but they.
Of course he did. I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but it doesn't make him any less an idiot.
He's still an idiot, and this is what kind of things he does. So he went to Apple, or he had one of his cronies go to Apple, and basically he said, "We opened." I don't know if they told him that we opened it, but he said, "We know this is not going to be covered under Apple Care. We will pay for this."
Repair. Yeah, because they cracked the screen, didn't they? Or was there more to it than that?
they cracked the screen. The screen was a little bit shattered, and there was circuitry problems. Something with the motherboard wasn't working, or the power, or something like that. So
Okay.
there was some physical damage, and then there was some just electrical issue with it, or motherboard issue. So they said to Apple, they opened up a case with Apple and said, we will pay for this. And so an email chain supposedly went back and forth, which we didn't see, which is a problem. That they initially said okay, and then they said, well, they brought it into the Apple Store, and they said they were going to fix it. Then they got a report back saying, come pick up your iMac, it's ready, repair denied, is what it said. And I've seen that too on other stuff, but so they went in and basically throughout this email chain that said, we denied your request because we cannot get the parts needed to fix this iMac Pro from Apple headquarters. What you can do is go to a third-party repair shop to do it. And of course, they tried to go to a third party and nobody had it. And then they found some people who knew what they were doing, and they're like, you got to send me the parts. But Apple won't send you these parts if
you're not an authorized service repairman.
Authorized, because because with the authorized repair, you get access to their systems and things like that. So they're not doing that. So this guy cried, made a video, and said, now I have this paperweight, and Apple won't do it. So,
which would have been fine if he had just left the damn thing alone.
Right. Well, that's what he does. He breaks stuff or tears on stuff and tries to get companies to look bad, is really what he does. So, there's all debates going on, from both sides. Mac Rumors posted today a whole thing about it, and they basically said that Apple may have used the excuse saying that we don't have the parts, but there is a policy that is out there that says that if you have your computer or device repaired by an unauthorized Apple dealer, you
kill your warranty.
You kill your warranty, and they have the right not to offer to fix it. So that's kind of what I think is happening. So, of course, there's the Apple people like, yeah, he got what he deserved. And then there's everybody else is like,
Apple, you broke it, blah, blah, blah.
You broke, well, I mean,
they won't fix it, even though they're going to pay for it.
And then send me the parts, why won't they just send them the parts? So I see both sides of it, but I think Apple knows who this guy is.
Sure.
And I think basically they're just kind of making an example out of it, and he'll have to deal with it.
Yep.
He'll get it fixed eventually. I'm sure somebody will do it.
How can you talk if you haven't got a brain?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Where'd that come from?
Have the effrontery to ask for a brain.
Yeah, so Apple isn't playing their game, basically.
Yeah, so if you have there's a couple of things going on now with third-party repair shops. A couple of people are upset about now phones are doing funny things if you don't get it. Apple really, really, really wants you to have Apple fix their stuff. There's no,
or an Apple authorized dealer,
or either Apple authorized or Apple. They don't want you touching it. They don't want you opening it, and that's why everything Apple is selling is becoming sealed, because they do not want people tinkering in there.
Okay, well, they can tinker all they want, but if you start to tinker and it's not an authorized Apple repair shop, they're basically going to tell you to go jump in the lake.
Right.
I mean, it's not like this is a secret. So I'm not really sure where people are getting like all crazy about it. This, I mean, some of the comments I was seeing was along the lines of, well, Apple, blah, blah, blah. The people who buy Apple products are idiots that don't know anything about tech. I mean, it's the same crap that morons like that have been saying for years. Right. So, okay, but this is what it comes down to. If you buy a sealed Apple product, and we're talking about practically their entire laptop line, the iMacs, iPhones, iPads. I mean, there's really not much left that they sell that isn't sealed.
Yeah.
Then, you know what? Get it spec'd out the way that you think you're going to need it for however long you're going to have it, which typically will be at least twice as long as what you would have a competing product for.
Yeah.
Get that, and then just use it. And when you're done with it, sell it for probably half or more of what you already paid for it and get another one. You know, the fact that you know how to replace a hard drive or can put in your own memory or even build your own PC does not make you a technical genius. It's not that flippin' hard. It really isn't.
So the tech community, I'm a tech, and the tech community is getting up in arms because, Apple is making it so their worth is dropping on the hardware field. I mean, people are, but we're in a point now where if you take yourself and try to picture 30, 40 years in the future, you're not seeing anything, any gadgets, any devices that's not real, like almost like one piece. That's what they want to go to.
Well, that's what everybody is going to. I mean, I was an electronic technician, which meant I was doing discrete component repairs on boards. I mean, I would literally take a board out, find a faulty component on it, replace that component, put that same board back in. From there, it went to what I called Swaptronics, where you had 4 or 5 boards inside of a box, and you knew it was going to be one of these boards that were bad. So you would just swap the boards until it would start to work, and you would call it a day. Now we're at the point where those 4 or 5 boards are basically reduced down to one board, and you can't replace discrete components. You can't just swap out a board with another one and expect it to work the way that it did before. Especially when you're talking about things that tie into the security enclave on the iPhones and iPads, and just all the rest of the stuff, that the secret sauce that Apple puts into their stuff.
It's aesthetics too. It's basically it's for aesthetics, and it's for it's basically to prevent people from breaking things. And with this new Mac Pro that's being announced, people are getting a little bit excited. Oh, we're going to be able to add things to this. It's not going to be like that.
No,
it's going to be modular, which means they're going to, that's what they're talking about. But you're not going to be able to open it up and put more cards in there. They'll maybe add slots, where you could put some memory in there or something like that. But it's not going to be how it was, and that people have to get over it.
Well, and this is why the fact that not just Apple but so many other companies are going to eGPUs, where you have a separate box that has a discrete graphics card or has another USB card or has what have you, and then it's all going back and forth on a super fast Thunderbolt 3 bus. It's gotten to the point where the big holdup and the reason why you had to have all of these things inside of one box was because the bus speeds between these various bits and pieces weren't that fast. So you had to have them as close as you possibly could. But now with Thunderbolt 3, you don't have to. So you could have something the size of the Mac Pro in the little trash can and just connect up that to a box that's in another room, that's making all the noise, that has all the fans and everything else that it needs because it gets so flippin' hot. And you've just got this small thing that's on your desk. This is where the industry is going. The industry isn't going to continue to support these great big huge CPUs with orange and green lights that are glowing coming out of the side of the cabinet, because other than hardcore gamers and who will sit around and I almost said a bad word there, that will sit around and look at things like this and oh, it's a work of art, blah 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 blah. It's just a computer. That's all it is. So you get you take the stuff that's necessary to make it work harder and faster, and you put it someplace else. Who cares?
Right. It's the modular thing and the external GPU. That's not going to be the future either. That's the present. The future is going to be, the future is going to be small, all enclosed units. They're going to make the Mac, it's maybe they'll bring out the trash can again. That will be better and have everything that you would need into it. But Apple doesn't want people building cubes and things like that either.
They don't care about that stuff. Apple doesn't care. They don't care about the Hackintosh community. If Apple really cared about the Hackintosh community, they would shut them down.
But they don't care about that.
It's immaterial to their core business, so they don't care.
Apple wants a computer the size of this that could do everything you want it to do.
Or the size of...
Oh, I don't want to see the remix. That's fine. But in any case, this guy's an idiot. Apple does not want to deal with somebody who's, dicking around in that thing, that iMac Pro. And, people, if you're tech and you know what you're doing, then, take your chance. But otherwise, you live by the rules. And but if people think, and if people don't want apples, then don't get an apple. Get whatever you want.
Okay. A couple things before we wrap it up for the evening. As you may or may not have heard, Apple is starting to give people warnings about 32-bit applications. They're moving the Mac entirely to 64-bit. Probably won't be the next version of the Mac OS, but more than likely will be the one after that. So we're talking 2019, 2020, before all of the applications that are on your computer, as far as the Mac goes, has to be 64-bit ready. They went through the same thing with iOS not that long ago, and it really kind of gave them a chance to clear out a lot of the cruft, the apps that people put out, the I Am Rich and all that other nonsense, and just get rid of them because they were just crap. So 64-bit apps is the future for the Mac. And if you want to find out if any of your applications that you use on a regular basis aren't 32-bit ready, basically, if you just go to your Apple menu about this Mac, and then go to the system report. And from system report,
software.
No, there's one here, applications under software.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm looking at mine now. I actually have a couple in there that are not 64-bit.
Yeah, and there's if just look it up online. We're not going to go all the way through it here. There's all of the various ways that you can find out this information for yourself, and I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. Make sure that you don't have any mission-critical 32-bit apps that are going to be left behind. Or if there are 32-bit apps that you use on a regular basis, make sure you contact whoever it is that developed that application and find out whether or not they're going to move it to 64-bit. If they're not, start looking for a replacement now.
There's a couple of Apple utilities that are still not.
Well, not anymore. Not since High Sierra.
No, there are. I have the beta on there, and I can tell you there's a few. DVD player, 32-bit.
Oh, well. Okay, DVD player. What about iWeb? Is iWeb still 32-bit?
I don't know if I have that.
I'm sure it is. There's supposed to be a new iPhone SE coming out, according to some rumors from Mac Rumors. Reading between the lines of a filing in Russia, many have said that besides the obvious new phones coming out next fall, that an updated version of the iPhone SE, which is the last one to use the iPhone 5 form factor, may be coming out before Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference in June. Now, the SE, I believe, is still using the A8 because it was essentially the internals of a 6 in a smaller case. So it would make sense that they would, if they do come out with a new one, they would move that to the A9 or maybe even a version of the A10 if they can make it small enough.
It was a 5S shape is what it
Yeah.
was.
Well, the 5 and 5S really wasn't that much different.
So actually, Mac Rumors just posted another article just recently that they're saying that there's 3 possible phones and one with a price tag as low as $550, and they have a little graphic here. And it looks like what they're thinking is there might be a 6.1 non-OLED version that sounds like it would be a good replacement of the SE, which I would think that would be that kind of replacement. It does have a notch according to the picture, but
yeah, those are mock-ups. Those aren't.
Those are mock-ups,
Yeah.
but so it might be. I don't. The SE is not going to be the SE in the current. The next one's not going to have Touch ID. The next one's going to
that we know
it's
of.
going to have Face ID, and it's not going to have the nice screen. Sounds that according to what they're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out relatively soon.
We'll find out soon enough.
But speaking of things that are happening in the future, MacStock 2018, Warren, is coming July 21st and 22nd. And as usual, it's just outside of Chicago in Woodstock, Illinois, at the McHenry County College campus in Crystal Lake, Illinois. It's a great facility. We've been using this, or not we, Mike Potter this is where he's held the MacStock conference and expo each time for the last 3 years. And he's actually having a keynote speaker this year. It is going to be Dr. Mac Bob Levitas. Tim Robertson from My Mac and Tech Fan and myself will be doing the My Mac Game Show quiz. Allison Sheridan from the NosillaCast and Wally Chewinski, a longtime videographer, and many, many, many more people will be going and speaking at this conference. This is a great way to meet up with some of your favorite Mac people, and we're all of us will be completely accessible unless you really piss us off, so don't do that. But it's going to be a really good time. Your total cost, if you go and get your ticket right now, you will not have to spend more than $189 for the entire conference. Of course, not counting transportation costs and your hotel. That's still pretty much on you. Yeah. But there's no extra costs associated with the conference itself. They give you lunch for both days. The Saturday night shindig is going to there'll be food there just like there was for the last couple of years. There'll be food on Friday night. Of course, depending on what hotel you're staying in, chances are they'll have some kind of weird ass hotel breakfast. So, once you're actually there, you probably won't have to spend much in the way of money, but that's $189 for the entire shebang.
Is that their tagline? Their tell? We have some weird ass breakfast.
Weird ass hotel breakfast.
Come stay at the Holiday Inn. We got some weird ass breakfast going on. So,
hey,
awesome.
Look at this. We've got waffles. Hey, you make yourself by pouring in the magic batter.
And never works.
It works, but they're not that good.
I never get it right.
Hey, Barry, what's going on? My cousin Barry just showed up. Hello, Barry. Hello, Fada. Here I am in Camp Granada. If you can get $10 off. It's $199 right now. You can get $10 off with the coupon code MTTF bonus 10. All one word. MTTF bonus 10 will get you another $10 off. And your price comes down to $189 for the whole shebang just outside of Chicago. Beep, beep, says David Ginsburg.
Why?
I don't know. It's just the way this show works.
Yeah,
Warren, if people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do it? How? Tell me.
I don't know. Facebook. I'm always there.
Okay,
Facebook.
I can attest to that. Every single time I go on Facebook, there's Warren.
There.
He is.
What else am I going to do? You can't scare me away. How about you?
If you wanted to get a hold of me, you can contact me via my various email addresses, two of which are guy@mymac.com, probably, or guy@mttfgo.com, which I still need to test to see if it still works. Waffle machine. I love the waffle machines, Dave. You can also reach me. I am Mac Parrot over there on the Twitters. We have a Skype telephone number, and if one of you crazy ass people would call it, we would actually play the call right here on the show. 703-436-9501, which coincidentally is the exact same telephone number that we use for the My Mac podcast, and only one person in North Carolina seems to know how to use that number. So apparently it's a really difficult thing to do. Yeah. If you would like to help me offset some of the various costs that I have doing this, one of the things I am planning on doing is taking the guys' daily drives that I've been doing, converting that into MP3, just an audio format, and eventually turning that into a podcast, which will come out 2-3 times a week, depends on how many times I do it. But if you'd like to help me with any of that, you can buy me a coffee at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/MacParrot. You can also support me on the Patreons, patreon.com/MacParrot. Besides this show,
you can send me a coffee too if you want. I don't care.
Sure, yeah, get Warren a coffee.
I
You
love
can.
coffee.
I do. I love coffee.
I do.
You can also find me on the weekends, except for last weekend, when I record the mymac.com podcast with Gazmaz, and 2 to 4 times a week, depending on how busy I am or how crazy I feel, I do this thing called Guys Daily Drive. You can find those over on the Facebooks or over on the YouTubes. They're there too. I put links to them to the Guys Daily Drive stuff on my personal page over there in mymac.com. I put it all over the place. But if you look up,
is that the first one you missed in a while with Gaz?
Yeah, last weekend, yeah, that was
that? It's got to been a while, right?
Well, it's weird because usually, if I can't do it, Gaz can, and so he'll record it. And if he can't do it, I can, and I'll record it with someone else. I usually do all the editing, though, just because I'm used to it and set up for it. And Gaz really isn't. He hasn't had to do it all that often. And it actually takes me, you would think that doing video and doing audio, just audio and then, or video and audio, that video and audio would be harder. It's not. It's really, really not. Because with the MyMac podcast, we take breaks halfway through, and there's stuff that I cut out, and so I'm kind of skipping all over the place along the audio track to just get the magic goodness that goes within each one of the segments for the MyMac.com podcast. Whereas with this show, once we sit there and say, okay, we're live, then it's basically from the moment that you see the credits until the closing credits at the very end. And other than saying, okay, this bit here, this bit here, there's really nothing else that I need to do. Everything else just depends on how quickly the machine can render it. Super easy. Yep. And Guys Daily Drive is a snap, because number one, it's only about 10-15 minutes. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this evening. Thank you all for being here. We actually have more people here now that we're about done than we did before. So, but thank you all for coming. We really, really do appreciate it. And Warren, say goodnight.
Good night, Warren.
And we will see you all next time on the Mac to the Future Go livecast. Bye.
Bye.